Hello everybody, I'm making this video because I got reminded of it because I'm eating. Nom nom nom. So, hello child. That's a child, if you couldn't tell. And there's another child over there. So, and there's a dog. So, I got reminded of this because I've seen two videos in the past week, cat here, where people said that we can eat whatever we want per X. And this one guy was a nice guy and everything. It's not a, excuse me. His channel isn't really a religious one, so I think, but he said he's getting into reading the Bible. But I worry because he did this skit where he was like, oh, he was talking to himself, pretending he was a different character. You know, one of those things. Oh, at the door. No. Sorry, the dog was going over there. So, sorry, this video's production value is off the charts. He was like, oh, you can eat whatever, because it says, in fact, he goes, the only place in the Bible where it talks about food is in Acts. And right there, the huge red flag. And I already know what happened, I suspect, because last year my wife and I were going to various churches when we moved back here, just to see. We went to a place in Brockport, and they handed us like a gift bag. And I didn't look at the time. When we got home, I pulled it out, and I was like, Bible, cool. And I felt a little thin, and I looked. It was just the New Testament only. I'm like, here's his church, and these pastors handing out just the New Testament. And sorry, that to me is what that passage in Matthew was built for, where Jesus is like Yeshua, is his real name. There's no J in Hebrew. Where Yeshua's like, I'm like, oh, master, everyone done works in their name, and he's like, get away from me, I never knew you. If you, just aside, if you are telling people to only read the New Testament, but worse yet, handing out a Bible that, you better reevaluate some shit. So anyway, X is not the only place they talk about food. In fact, they're not talking about food in Acts. The Lord is not talking about food. That's in Leviticus. That's the only time food is covered, and it's not changed. No, you cannot eat that delicious bacon. Sorry. I hate to break it to you. I know it's a bunch of people who try to twist things, and, these people have more degrees than a thermometer. But you still don't know what they're talking about, and they twist things. And anyway, Acts, where Peter is on the roof, and the Lord brings down a big sheet with a bunch of tasty, unclean animals on there. And he's like, slay an animal and eat, Peter. And Peter's like, no, I've never eaten an unclean animal, Elohim. And Elohim's like, don't call unclean what I have made clean. He says this 3 times. That's kind of important-ish to detail to remember. Now, obviously, it's pretty easy to understand why people would confuse us. Now, the people in the know who should know better, I don't give them a pass. I think they're doing it on purpose. Some of them. But I can see why people would be like, oh, well, here, it says right here. I mean, it's obvious, right? It's obvious. There's food right there. The Lord says eat. But even if you read the whole, chapter, Peter himself couldn't figure out what that was all about. Now, the Lord said it 3 times, slay and eat. Peter's like, no. And then the doorbell rings, and there's 3 Gentiles there asking Peter to go with them to another Gentile. Now, this Gentile got a message from the Lord and said, hey, go send for Peter, have him come to you, and he will tell you some cool stuff, yo. So, 3 times, 3 people at the door, there's that. Now, the Lord was, now you got to remember, if you haven't read the Bible and don't have your context, and that's what happens when you don't read for yourself, when you don't read in context, when you rely on your pastor or other people to fill you in, you wouldn't necessarily know that the reason this is uber important is up until this point, Israelites, Hebrews, and I don't like using this term as an all-encompassing term because of this different story, the Jews, I guess we'll go with, up until that point, did not really associate with Gentiles. But you got 3 pieces of crust, dog. Hit the bricks. And so that is why the Lord had to be like, dude, Peter, the Gentiles are clean now. Go spread my word. And so again, when Peter was trying to figure it out, then the knock came, the 3 dudes. Then he went with them to the other guy's house, and the Roman was there with his family and his friends, and that's where Peter first spread the gospel to Gentiles. So everybody ought to be happy about Acts, and not don't be sad that it doesn't mean you can't eat pig like you thought it could. No, be happy that that's what the Lord chose to do there, because otherwise, might not have ever got it. So yeah, not about food, not about the Lord changing his mind as to what Well, I mean, what do you think happened? Do you think like he sent down an update to our stomachs and was like, oh, they can eat clean, dirty stuff now? Because remember, it's not just spiritually unclean or religiously unclean or whatever that. I mean, if you actually look at, how bottom feeders work and their digestive system, remember, they're picking up all the crap that falls down, especially pigs will roll around in their own crap, and their digestive systems, the way they work, just don't clean things out, and that gets into, obviously the food gets into the piggies and the shrimp and the crustaceans and all that gets into their system, and you're eating meat that has been, fueled by, in some cases, literal turds. So there was no update pushed from the Lord to our stomachs, which, made it so that we could eat that. It was about people. So just so you guys know, again, Acts does not mean you can eat whatever you want. It's whatever, I forgot the specific verse. It is about Gentiles getting the good news. So good news. It's not about food. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, yeah, that's all I got for right now. That's all I have for right now. The dog, obviously, is a lot more to talk about, but you can make your own video. Yeah, you can make your own video, punk. Anyway, have a great day. I hope the Lord blesses you. And remember, read the Bible for yourselves in context. If you have any questions or guidance, I highly recommend a YouTube channel named Bear, as in like rawr, Bear, Independent. And he is, some prepping and survival videos, but he also has a whole playlist where he reads the Bible, how it should be done in church when, most of the time it's not. He actually reads each word, and then if it needs explanation, he'll explain it. None of this, half an hour of music, which the Lord does not want to hear if you're not doing what he says you should be doing, which is following the law. It's not a couple minutes of announcements, and then, maybe 20 minutes of a story that the pastor made up with a couple lines or verses of the Bible sprinkled in. No, it's what it's supposed to be. It's Bear reading the Bible. I gotta go kill the dog, so if you'll excuse me, peace out.